Howdy, folks. Welcome back to Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. We're on chapter 34, and I'm thinking of making this episode a bit of a longer one just to kind of try and get ahead because we are, I think, 3 days now from Halloween. So I'm really trying to finish this before Halloween. We're about halfway there. We got a little less than half left. So if I did a bit of a longer episode today, I hope I get further along and that you stick around with me. So, yeah, my name is Mars. Please subscribe, hang out with me, and join in the reading fun. We can try a new book after this one, because once the spooky season is done, I'm thinking we go on to something a little more fun. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, anyways, I think I have my water around here. I think I left it over there. Bear with me. I'll be right back. Doing it live. All right, that is just the biz. All right, fix that, and welcome back. Chapter 34. When they were gone, Elizabeth, as if intending to exasperate herself as much as possible against Mr. Darcy, chose for her employment the examination of all the letters which Jane had written to her since her being in Kent. They contained no actual complaint, nor was there any revival of past occurrences, or any communication of present suffering. But in all, and in almost every line of each, there was a want of that cheerfulness which had been used to characterize her style. Elizabeth noticed every sentence conveying the idea of uneasiness with an attention which it had hardly received on the first perusal. Mr. Darcy's shameful boast of what misery he had been able to inflict gave her a keener sense of her sister's sufferings. It was some consolation to think that he would soon fall at the end of her blade, and that in less than a fortnight she should herself be with Jane again, and enabled to contribute to the recovery of her spirits, beginning with the presentation of Darcy's heart and head. Yeah, so if you don't remember, in the last chapter we found out that the reason Mr. Bingley wasn't really into Jane, Elizabeth's sister, anymore, which we previously thought was because of Mr. Bingley's sister, is actually Mr. Darcy apparently throwing some shade, sowing some seeds in there, you know? Not thinking Jane is worth it, which is whatever, Darcy. You're so full of yourself, man. Anyways, she could not think of Darcy without remembering his cousin, for, agreeable as he was, Colonel Fitzwilliam was also the one man who could assign the guilt of Darcy's slaying to Elizabeth. He would have to be dispensed with as well. While settling this point, she was suddenly roused by the sound of the doorbell, and her spirits were a little fluttered by the idea of its being Colonel Fitzwilliam himself. But this idea was soon banished, and her spirits were differently affected when, to her utter amazement, she saw Mr. Darcy walk into the room. In a hurried manner, he immediately began an inquiry after her health, imputing his visit to a wish of hearing that she were better. She answered him with a cold civility, scarcely able to believe her luck at this happening by so soon, and waiting for the first opportunity to excuse herself and retrieve her katana. He sat down for a moment, and then, getting up, walked about the room. After a brief silence, he came towards her in an agitated manner, and thus began. "In vain I have struggled. It will not do. My feelings will not be repressed. You must allow me to tell you how ardently I admire and love you." Elizabeth's astonishment was beyond expression. She stared, colored, doubted, and was silent. This he considered sufficient encouragement at the avowal of all that he had, the avowal of all that he felt and had long felt for her immediately followed. He spoke well, but there were feelings beside those of the heart to be detailed, and he was not more eloquent on the subject of the tenderness than of his pride. His sense of her inferiority his sense of her inferiority, of its being a degradation, of the family's obstacles which had always opposed to inclination, were dwelt on with a warmth which seemed due to the consequence he was wounding, but he was unlikely to recommend his suit. In spite of her deeply rooted bloodlust, she could not be insensible to the compliment of such a man's affection, and though her intention of killing him did not vary for an instant, she was somewhat sorry for the pain he was about to receive, till, roused to resentment by his subsequent language, she lost all compassion in anger. She tried, however, to compose herself to answer him with patience. lest her intentions be exposed. He concluded with representing to her strength of that attachment which, in spite of all his endeavors, he had found impossible to conquer, and with expressing his hopes that it would now be rewarded by her acceptance of his hand. As he had said this, she could easily see that he had no doubt of a favorable answer. He spoke of apprehension and anxiety, but his countenance expressed real security. Such a circumstance could only exasperate farther, and, when he ceased, the colour rose into her cheeks, and she said, "In such cases as this, it is, I believe, the established mode to express a sense of obligation for the sentiments avowed, however unequally they may be returned. It is natural that obligation should be felt, and if I could feel gratitude, I would now thank you. But I cannot. I have never desired your good opinion, and you have certainly bestowed it most unwillingly. I am sorry to have occasioned you pain, but only sorry because it has been most unconsciously done. Before you walked through that door, I had resolved to strike you down, sir. My honour, nay, the honour of my family, deserves no lesser satisfaction." Elizabeth presently lifted her dress above her ankles and struck a basic crane pose, which she thought well suited for the cramped quarters. Mr. Darcy, who was leaning against the mantelpiece with his eyes fixed on her face, seemed to catch her words with no less resentment than surprise. His complexion became pale with anger, and the disturbance of his mind was visible in every feature. At length, with a voice of forced calmness, he said, "And this is all the reply which I am to have the honour of expecting? I might, perhaps, wish to be informed why, with so little endeavour at civility, I am thus rejected and challenged." "I might as well inquire," replied she, why with so evident a desire of offending and insulting me, you choose to tell me that you liked me against your will, against your reason, and even against your character. Do you think that any consideration would tempt me to accept a man who has been the means of ruining, perhaps forever, the happiness of a most beloved sister?" As she pronounced these words, Mr. Darcy changed colour, but the emotion was short, for Elizabeth presently attacked with a series of kicks, forcing him to the counter with a drunken washwoman defence. She spoke as they battled. So, here's actually a picture of them battling. She's just like, roundhouse kick to the face. You see that? Yeah, fun stuff. I love the art in this. She spoke as they battled. I have every reason in the world to think ill of you. No motive can excuse the unjust and ungenerous part you acted there. You cannot deny that you have been the principal, if not the only means of dividing them from each other. One of her kicks found its mark, and Darcy was sent into the mantelpiece with such force as to shatter its edge. Wiping the blood from his mouth, he looked at her with a smile of affectionate incredulity. "Can you deny that you have done it?" she repeated. With assumed tranquillity, he then replied, "I have no wish of denying that I did everything in my power to separate my friend from your sister, or that I rejoice in my success. Towards him I have been kinder than towards myself." Elizabeth disdained the appearance of noticing the civil reflection, and grabbed the fire poker, at which she pointed at Darcy's face. "But it is not merely this affair," she continued, "on which my dislike is founded. Long before it had taken place, my opinion of you was decided. Your character was unfolded in the recital which I received many months ago from Mr. Wickham. On this subject, what can you have to say? In what imaginary act of friendship can you defend yourself? Can you here defend yourself? You take an eager interest in that gentleman's concerns, said Darcy in a less tranquil tone, with a heightened colour. Who that knows what his misfortunes have been, can he help feeling an interest in him? His misfortunes, repeated Darcy contemptuously. Yes, his misfortunes have been great indeed. With this, he swept her feet from beneath her and sprang to his own. Elizabeth was too quick to allow him the advantage, for she was soon upright and swinging the poker at him with renewed vigor. "And of your infliction," cried Elizabeth with energy, "you have reduced him to his present state of poverty, comparative poverty. You have withheld the advantages which you must know to have been designed for him. You have deprived the best years of his life of that independence which was no less due than his desert. You have done all this, and yet you can treat the mention of his misfortune with contempt and ridicule. And this, cried Darcy, as he grabbed the poker from her hand, is your opinion of me. Whoopsies. Breaking things over here. This is the estimation in which you hold me. I thank you for explaining it so fully. My faults, according to this calculation, are heavy indeed, but perhaps, added he, pressing the pointed end against her neck, these offences might have been overlooked, had not your pride been hurt by my honest confession of the scruples that had long prevented my forming any serious design. These bitter accusations might have been suppressed had I, with greater policy, concealed my struggles, and flattered you in the belief of my being impelled by unqualified, unalloyed inclination, by reason, by reflection, by everything. But disguise of every sort is my abhorrence, nor am I ashamed of the feelings I related. They were natural and just. Could you expect me to rejoice in the inferiority of your training, to congratulate myself on the hope of relations whose condition in life is so decidedly beneath my own? Ugh. Elizabeth felt herself growing more angry every moment, yet, as Darcy backed her against a wall, she tried to the utmost to speak with composure. When she